Welcome to my stroll. Today is April 30th, 2026. Today was a lovely, really a lovely spring day, 15 degrees Celsius, a clear blue sky, not too hot, not too cool. Perhaps you can also see over there the moon. Wonderfully illuminating the landscape here. I have some good news to my surprise. There's a new publication of a translation I did with two of my friends, and that's available on the homepage Idea, and I'll put this in the description of this video, a link to this text. It's only a couple of pages long, and it's I think it turned out pretty well. It's a bit one has to get accustomed to the language and the style that we employ in these translations of ours. And the text is principally about so it's called die Zahl in German, which would usually is a number. But it's not about just numbers in the ordinary sense. Actually, the text is in a sense an attempt to determine again or interrogate again what the phenomenon we call Zahl, we would ordinarily call number, really is. It's about das Wesen, let's say, the essence or the binding about of this phenomenon. And as you can see, if you click on the kind of the publication text, you see that both our translations, for Zahl and Zählen, so Zählen would usually be to count in English, but we translate Zahl instead of number, we would say tale, and instead of counting, we would say telling. And both tale and telling speak in the dimension of clearing, of what Heidegger would call being itself, of uncovering, of revealing, of a thing, let's say, appearing in its due fitting light, while simultaneously gathering gathering all other things into a cosmos. It's about indicating this what we've elsewhere called, this faying, this fitting, this harmonizing of things in their let's say in the constitution of a worlding world. It's about that dimension. And as such, this text is also an attempt to point a way out or away from that long tradition of abusing numbers that we have now in the West, where it's only about, mere control, computability, let's say, perhaps, the reign of quantity, and where a kind of forgetfulness reigns about, let's say, the true biding, the true essence of the tale, of this what we've called tale. And tale and telling, it's very interesting when you think about it. For example, when in telling, for example, you have that character of revelation. You still have it in English in the phrase, time will tell. Time will tell what, for example, became of him. Time will tell what will happen. And there you still can hear, you can hearken to that origin of the word, of these words, tale, telling, and so on, where you can get a kind of a phenomenological hint that, that's in a sense preserved by the root of the word itself, that it's about this kind of uncovering, this, alepheic, aletheia in Greek, truth, that uncovering of the truth of a thing, of a being. Where then it's always about, preserving the point where any being can shine in its uniqueness, while it's also clearly, and it has its own time space, or time space even, for its own selving, its own being, its own suchness, while it clearly, stands apart or is cindered from other beings, which, respectively shine in their own true suchness, in their own selvingness. And it's just about, and in that dimension too, then suddenly the tale and the telling are they are becoming flagrant phenomena that we as thinkers ought to mind. And so this text can also, give a hint into, let's say, what so they point to the other side of what numbers are today, or what numbers have become in our time, and what numbers could also be in another respect when we consider them philosophically. So yeah, that's what this translation of ours is about. Again, I will. It is important, I think, to once we've got a hint of the, once we are capable of minding the, I think, the uniqueness of each and every thing, then and we're capable of returning to that dimension, which we are always, we're always threatened, to become inert to it, to forget it, and thus, say, leave beings in the, let's say, in the forsakenness of their being. Once we learn, how to return to that dimension, then I mean, that there are so many phenomena there to discover, and it's only also from that dimension where we can even, hearken to, or we can learn to hear, the true, true words. That's kind of what I want to say, true words. And then language itself, in a sense, transports us, elevates us to this dimension, and it has been really interesting in this, in this process of translating, whether it's, with the Scholé text or some of the other projects we've there's another project we've been conducting, which is still work in progress, but which we hopefully will also finish sometime this year. It's really interesting to just to learn to see what is still in store for us, and kind of also what kind of richness, what kind of wealth there is preserved in let's say the old roots of our respective languages, and especially also in English, because again, what I said, when you say something like, time will tell, and suddenly this kind of this word telling, suddenly can gain a kind of ontological meaning, where suddenly it's about the revelation, the showing of truth, of being itself. Instead of a kind of, just ontical, telling, I'm just telling you some information, I'm conveying some information to you. And that's, and that's, I think it's also important, when you consider, that there have been these these names for the principle of all things, the origin of all things, when you, like the hen, the one, for example, in Neoplatonism, in Greek, or for example, shunyata, the zero, the null, in India, or what then became mu in Japanese Zen, for example, the nothing, the no thingness. And then, there you see, that there's this intrinsic, there's this, that how important, the tail really is, and that it points to kind of dimensionality, and it has this kind of bifurcated character, even, when you consider, the let's say the null as as a non-existent nothing, or this inexhaustible rich no thingness, And same is true with the one. So these are just a few thoughts. Well, I am, you know, I am hoping to, you know, give you some, induce you for further inquiry into this little text. Again, it's not very long. I think, including our footnotes, it's, I think, no more than 8 or 9 pages. Yeah, and with that, I think I will say goodbye to you on this beautiful spring day. I hope you're all well, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.